describing the picture. So this boy and girl, they met in a concert of their favorite band. He fell in love with her at first sight, but she wasn't head over heels in love with him first time. He was not so attractive, maybe not so, but he was still good looking. And when one day she was passing next, she was passing his house. She was looking for her friend's place. And he was standing next to his house, and she came up to him and asked the direction. And he said where to go, where to turn left or right, and where to go straight ahead. And suddenly and so they began talking, and suddenly she start seeing him in a different light. Here was a person with a great sense of humor and very kind and gentle and really good looking and ready to help. He was very smart, and his company was very pleasant. So after that time, in a week, he asked her on a date, and they go to the park and they talked a lot. But it was very difficult for them because she had to go to move to another city for her semester. She was a student, and she had to study for 2 years, more 2 years at the university. And this was very hard because they stayed, it was a long distance relationship, and it was hard not to maintain them for the 6 months, for the next 6 months. But she had holidays, but that 6 months were really hard. So they hadn't, at that time there wasn't an internet, and they could only write letters to each other. So when she came back at last with her diploma, he asked her to go out with him, but it was very surprising because he, instead of going out, he invited her to go inside one house. They lifted on to the last floor. Then they climbed up, and it turned out that they were on the roof. So they began watching the nice view from that roof. The house was very high, very tall, maybe, yes. And they saw the historical places of this city and the adventure park. And after that, he suddenly got on his knee and asked her to marry him. And she didn't have time to think even, and she answered yes. And he gave her a beautiful rose, but behind his back there was a little table with 2 glasses of wine and a ring, the really beautiful ring he only could find. So he said that these 2 years he had been saving money, and he at last managed to buy his own flat right in this house. And the house were on the roof of which they were standing at that moment. And he invited her to move in with him in that flat and start a new family.